Fire ants in 3D. Now, what lurks beneath us? What hides in fields outside our doors, creeping around, waiting for their opportunities? By appearances, this documentary has no right to be as enjoyable as it is. It's obscure, it's cheap, and has terrible taste in title fonts. Yet, it gives us some entertaining close-up shots of ants running around in the grass. We follow them hunting and taking down bugs many times their size. We don't see them take down something as big as, say, a lizard, but even these big animals don't stick around to find out how capable these ants are. Some surprisingly wide hyper stereo drone shots also show us how the ants look like from above. See them? No? Ultimately, we are provided a very fun overview of not just their habitat, but also it gets into some research that are looking at ants as models for nanotech robots. They think they are intelligent creatures that cooperate in a way that we might be able to model. I say, if they're so smart, why aren't they wearing any pants? Here's a fascinating moment where they demonstrate that these ants behave similar to oil, for example. If they are poured through a tap, the way they fluctuate and move is very similar to liquid. We also see them construct their own life raft when faced with rain, and this in particular gets the interest of the scientists, and they demonstrate how they can be pulled and folded and just manipulated in various ways, and then they always clamor to reconstruct whatever it is they're up to. A wax model of their hive seems ready-made for 3D. It looks like a big mud brain. You kind of have to wonder if our own cells are similar to these ants. Maybe we're all one big hive mind. Actually, when I hear stories of people suddenly having abilities, memories, or suddenly speaking in languages out of nowhere, I have to wonder if our brains are more like radios than computers. By extension, I wonder if stories of reincarnation are but an interpretation of that shared mind. Now, 3D loves stuff on tables, and it's really the perfect medium for showcasing tabletop science experiments, although this is intended to be more entertaining or informational and not instructional. I could imagine that seeing a display in stereo would help the viewer differentiate its parts and make it easier to recreate the plan. Here we are seeing them trying to engineer some natural predators for these invasive ants. You see, the lizards were complaining. It is a bit fascinating. What you see here might be described as a mini version of playing Stop, Stop, Go. It perpetually keeps the ants in their most vulnerable state. Occasionally I noticed that the depth of field seemed to be a little different for each eye, which surprisingly doesn't really affect the 3D illusion, but made me wonder if this was at least occasionally filmed using two independent cameras rather than a fully synced rig. After a brief search, I did indeed find this street shot is slightly out of sync, which got me curious. I had always wondered if this sort of thing could be fixed by applying a slow motion effect to increase the frames, and then using the extra frames to locate a new sync point and then bring the result back up to speed. So using this shot, I did just that. And the results? Well, if you have a 3D TV, you can tell me if it makes any difference. Personally, I didn't really notice that much difference at all, though I noticed if I paused it at a certain point where the cars pass each other, it did seem to be a little better. And to that end, regardless of whatever shortcuts and tricks were used here, Fire Ants is an enjoyable little documentary with interesting close-ups and a well-written narrative. Unlike their subject, this doesn't bite.